Thanks for tuning in to our NASCAR coverage live here on Proline TV for our fourth race of the season in the NASCAR Cup Series. And the first that is not either a super speedway or a road course. It's not one of our finest, but we'll see. We have a faster car. And I don't know if that's the answer to the reason why we've got some really crazy, dramatic stuff going on to begin the season here, CJ, with Tyler Reddick winning the first three races. I guess we'll find out in these types of racetracks, but it's still a very, incredible feat. And once again, I mean, the storylines are just, it's so funny. It's interesting that the whole storyline with Michael Jordan and their team against NASCAR, what they went through, and the obvious response to that is what we talked about last week and the last couple of weeks, which is how irony. And, I'm sure they feel real great about sticking it to NASCAR in a way. But when something is so, I guess, that easy to interpret, you then get because today, in today's day and age of technology, social media, everything's a conspiracy. So now it's not that Michael Jordan's happy to stick it to NASCAR. It's something went on behind closed doors, and they're allowing Michael Jordan to win the first three races of the season. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous what these people can come up with. But yeah, it's quite a run for Tyler Reddick, but it's still only three races. He has a long way to go. Great start.
Yeah, I mean, it's an unprecedented start. Never been done before. So very good for him, very good for the team. I think it's poetic justice. There's not a shred of desire anywhere in the garage, even if it's NASCAR saying you have to do this and we're going to, bend things to favor a specific team. There's no way that's happening. So how do you do that at Daytona, and how do you do that at Atlanta, two super speedway tracks? You can't engineer that to happen. We talked about the throwing of the caution versus not throwing the caution. That played into it. So the conspiracy theories are complete junk, and it's just the fact that he's had some good luck, and he's great at COTA. We'll see where the rest of the field stacks up when we start getting to these more bread and butter tracks here, starting kind of this week with Phoenix's 1.0 mile oval.
Yeah, we said on the show when we went over the past performances of Tyler Reddick that the only thing that we could see or understand why he was 16-1 was just because of the odds of him winning three straight races. Because we felt when we looked at everything that he honestly should have been right up there as like the second driver to beat. Right behind that includes the ridiculous odds that Connor Zilic, gets, which continued. But anyway, so none of that was a surprise. And he went into the race last week. He went into the weekend last week with a 2.2 average starting position. And he actually improved upon it.
Yes.
On the ball. So, I mean, that was when I did the show on Saturday, maybe because, I don't know, I'm hoping Bovada, one of the sportsbooks I use, I hope this is new, because I actually just checked to see. I always just check to see if the odds are there, especially since I did the show a few hours after, because I think everything ended early enough on Saturday where I was probably 3 hours after. So I checked it and the odds were up, which I couldn't believe it. I was like, great, I could actually talk about the odds on the show. And Reddick was 4-1 to win the race after qualifying first, 16-1 to 4-1. SVG was still up there as the favorite, of course. But that's why we try to explain to everybody, at least on Saturday, that you should really tune in on Tuesdays, because this is where you get the opportunity to take advantage of the odds.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Not surprising that he jumped up as well. I mean, one of two drivers, and I think after Sunday, he's the last remaining driver to have scored a top 10 finish in every single COTA race as well, all six of them.
All right. So again, we're out. Forget about the super speedways for now. Forget about the road courses for now. We're on to regular racing in the NASCAR series here at Phoenix Raceway. So look, we're all hoping that the added horsepower will accomplish something at this track. Whether that will happen or not, who knows? But we can hope. If you take a look at this particular racetrack, what's interesting is that, well, qualifying is really important. That's for one. You have to go back 17 races at Phoenix, not just the last 8 at Next Gen, but I'll go all the way back 17 races. And in the last 17 races, no one has started outside the top 7 rows. That's a lot of races. So if you do not qualify well at Phoenix, you do not have a good chance of winning this race. Even though there've actually only been 1 pole sitter in Next Gen, 3 in the last 17, though. Ford and Toyota, by the way, in Next Gen. Ford and Chevy. Ford has won 4 Next Gen races. Chevy and Toyota have won 2 each. And even though we haven't seen New Hampshire or Richmond yet this season, would those be the 2 racetracks if you want to take a look at how these drivers did last year, maybe in their second races? Because I think it's kind of hard when you start a new season to necessarily, and you haven't seen any of these similar tracks, to go last year and look, especially when we haven't even seen anyone race this year at Phoenix. So I tend to more look at maybe, all right, well, let's see what they did maybe in the second race, if there were 2 races at a track, instead of looking at maybe New Hampshire or Richmond or any of those tracks that might have started off pretty much like 10 months or 12 months from now. I don't know what you think about that, if you even care at all about New Hampshire or Richmond last year when you're handicapping this race. But if you do, would those be the 2 tracks that you would look at?
Yeah, I personally do not. So I look at Phoenix a little bit as a standalone. It's a flat one mile oval. So if you're going to look at anything in comparison, it would be New Hampshire and Phoenix. So I think those are both fine to look at. Richmond and New Hampshire. Richmond, obviously being a short track, doesn't have the distance. New Hampshire's a little bit longer, so probably put a little bit more emphasis on that one. But if you're able to hold on at any of the flatter ovals and race well, they're all track position tracks. You're going to probably rise to the top at Phoenix as well. So definitely a waiting on past Phoenix performance. But if you're look at the later half of last year, tracks like New Hampshire, Indianapolis gets a little bit big, but that's also a flat oval too that's jumping to mind. So I think New Hampshire is probably the best one to compare to, though.
Let's take a look at the odds. Before we do that, who do you think should be the favorite of this race?
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say Denny Hamlin, given his domination last fall.
Okay. Who do you think should be second?
Probably Ryan Blaney, considering he won last fall. I got half right. Just reversed.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, it was tied. They're both tied for first place at 5-1 to win the race. And yeah, I agree. I don't see any reason to think that shouldn't be the case. And really, this is one of those races. And again, unfortunately, one of these racetracks, this is part of the problem, is there's a lot of haves and a lot of have-nots. Or I shouldn't say a lot, but there's like a handful of haves, maybe 6 or 7 at the most, and then a lot of have-nots, or wishful thinkings kind of deal. So that's the problem. And Blaney Hamlin definitely deserved to be near the top.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, Denny Hamlin led more than 200 laps in last fall's race. He would have won if the caution didn't come out on, I think, just before the white flag. Ryan Blaney has been consistently good at Phoenix, and obviously being there to pick up the pieces helped out his average at the track as well, but he was good before then. So yeah, these are the 2 that I expected to be at the top. Usually the odds don't agree with me, but for whatever reason this time they do. For me, I think Ryan Blaney, I think he's had a better start, bringing a little bit more momentum into the weekend than Denny Hamlin. Hamlin did step it up last week, but he's still got a little bit of ways to go. I think Blaney's had a couple more good showings versus Hamlin, which kind of got out of the mark slowly.
Yeah, Blaney is a 12 top 10s in his last 14 with 10 top 5s, 4 runner-ups, and his lone win in November when he was not in the running for the championship. Interesting enough, even though he's led 449 laps during that stretch, he's only led 32 laps in his last 6 races at Phoenix. Next gen, 7 top 5s in 8 with 4 runner-ups and a win. Last year, he was strong in both races. And then Hamlin, like you said, he came into Phoenix as a track that really hadn't been necessarily all that great for him. But last year, boy, he was dialed up. Like you said, he led, not only did he dominate the race in November, but he also had a good showing of it earlier in the spring. So yeah, I could see why both of these drivers are where they're at. One's a Ford, one's a Toyota. Who do you think should be next?
Christopher Bell. No.
Yeah, well, it's kind of tied again.
All right. I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Bell should be in between Larson. I mean, Bell, if you throw out this race last year, Bell was coming into last year's championship race on a 3-race dominating run, basically. I mean, he was the car to beat. Matter of fact, he's looking for his 3rd straight spring win at Phoenix. So he's looking for a 3-peat too. So maybe that's the story of 2026, some 3-peating. So watch out for Christopher Bell. So yeah, he's been really good here, especially in the spring. And in his last 4 races, he's got a 4.5 average with 2 wins, and he's led almost 300 laps. Larson, meanwhile, 12 top 10s out of his last 14, just like Blaney, 9 top 5s and a win, which was his first championship win in 2021. He's got 5 top 5s in his last 6 here. But what's interesting is he's only led 13 laps in his last 5 races, did not qualify or practice in the top 10 in November's championship race, becoming the first the first champion to win without qualifying or practicing in the top 10 before the win. And that just showed you really how surprising it was that Larson won the championship race last year, because Hamlin was dominating and Byron was just clearly the second best. It was Byron's late tire issue that ruined both Byron and Hamlin. So yeah, that's why I think Bell should be ahead of Larson here.
Yeah, I would put Bell ahead of Larson. This has been a Toyota track for a little bit now, and it seems like the Joe Gibbs racing cars have really nailed it. And there are a couple other drivers that have been able to compete with them. Obviously, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, William Byron are among them. Larson's been very good here, but like you said, not getting out front, not leading a lot of laps in comparison. You look at Christopher Bell, he's led, throughout the fall race, as you said. He hasn't led fewer than 50 laps in those 3 before last fall, and 2 of them were wins. The other was a 5th place finish. But then last fall, just to emphasize the track position and the qualifying aspect of this track, the first time out of that span, those 4 races, that Bell started not inside the first 7 rows. He started the 10th row last fall, wasn't able to make it forward to the front. It only got up to 11th, and that's where he. So even if you're Christopher Bell and you're great at a place like Phoenix, you've got to qualify up front. And Larson, the same last 4 races here at Phoenix, has started 17th twice. One of those finishes was a 14th, and the other one last spring, he wound up in 3rd, but again, didn't lead any laps. So if you're looking for somebody that can lead laps, come out and dominate, they have to start in those first 7 rows.
Okay, next up, we've got Byron and Reddick and Logano. Let me make sure about, we got one more, and that's Briscoe. So Briscoe, of course, had a November to forget. He had all sorts of issues, all sorts of tire issues, and never had a shot. He does have a win in his 8 next gen races. Actually, his last 8, one was a next gen win. But in his last 5 races, he has an average of 23rd with only leading 5 laps. So don't really feel comfortable with Briscoe. Byron, on the other hand, we told you, what he did in the championship race. He was also 6th in this race last year from the pole, led 83 laps. He's got 3 top 5s and a win in the next gen. And he's led 19 or more in 5 of his last 6 races at Phoenix. So he is another strong one right there. Matter of fact, I actually would rather go with Byron over Larson and think that Byron's odds should be at least tied with Larson's, if not even better. And then Reddick trying to do the impossible and win 4 straight. While there was a reason to think he could win 3 straight, I don't see a reason why he can win 4. He had nothing last year here. And really, if you look at it, he did not lead a single lap at Phoenix in 10 of the 12 races. So I just don't think that's going to work out here. Matter of fact, if he hadn't won his first 3 races, he'd probably be 20-1, I would guess, at this point. Logano, the final one here to talk about out of this group, is a strong contender and a really good value pick at 12-1. He really should have won this race last year. If viewers recall, he was penalized for going down the line on the restart. If that doesn't happen, he probably wins. He led 81 laps in the race from the 2nd position, ended up 13th. And overall, he has 9 top 10s in his last 14 with 6 top 5s, a runner-up, and 3 wins. So, I think Logano at this point, out of all the drivers we've gone through, is definitely the best value.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. It's definitely William Byron and Joey Logano topping out the bunch. I would not go with Chase Briscoe. He had the tire issues and everything last fall, but even before that, the spring race, he qualified 30th and finished 35th. And that was his first couple of races with Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota. So give him a little bit of credit there, or grace. He crashed out of that race. He was much better when he was with Ford. Then you look at Tyler Reddick. Reddick, both races at Phoenix last year, 20th and 26th. So nothing really to talk about there. And his best finish is a pair of 3rd places back in 23 and 22. And those were both spring races. So I don't necessarily think that he's going to be in line for 4 this weekend. Plus, I already jumped off of that bandwagon a couple weeks ago. So I'm not going to try to go and get back on. But between Byron and Logano, honestly, I think I'd go with Logano. He's got the win from the front row the fall of 2024. Started on the front row again last spring, qualified inside the top 10 again in the fall, finished 4th, and led 188 laps in those 2 races. Byron also very good. No finishes lower than 10th, going all the way back to 2020.
Okay. Let's take a look at the next group. Elliott, Chastain, Berry, and Buescher. And the one that sticks out for me is another good, maybe a nice long shot, and that's Josh Berry at 28-1. Elliott's 14-1, as you see. He has 3 top 10s in his last 7, only a 14-point average in those 7 without a top 5. Of course, he won here in 2020 when he won the 2020 championship. Moving along, Chastain could be interesting. I think because he's 20-1, I probably put him 2nd in this group. He had a pretty solid car in November, and that's where he's won his race too, of course, winning the 2023 race that Blaney won the title that year. Dominated, leading 157 laps as well. Keeping in mind, he's only led 1 lap in his other 14 races here. So that's the reason why I think he's a pretty decent long shot, but not my top long shot. He was 11th and 13th last year. Meanwhile, if you take a look at Buescher, he once again seems to do a really good job as always, making his way up towards from the back, and not a bad fantasy idea, especially because he's got 5 top 10s in his career and 8 races with 3 top 5s and a runner-up. He's only led. Actually, that's into the next gen because that was really the best of Buescher anyway. I don't know if you remember long enough, many viewers, before next gen, Chris Buescher was just one of those obscure drivers that wasn't really doing a whole lot. But ever since Next Gen with his newest team, that's when he's had a good run. So he's probably not a bad fantasy driver, as I said, especially if he starts a little bit further back. You might want to take advantage of Chris Buescher there. The only problem is he's only led 20 laps in 20 career races, so don't expect a lot of points there in your fantasy contest. But 5 top 10s out of 8, 3 top 5s and a runner-up, not bad in Next Gen. And then Josh Berry, as I said, I think he is the one that really sticks out to me here. Last year, he was strong in both races. Matter of fact, in this race last year, he was strong not only on Sunday, but on Saturday. So he had a really good weekend. So he had a really good season here at Phoenix. His average starting position here is 20.6. His average finish is 14.2. The only thing is he's never led a lap. But maybe not a surprise because Josh Berry has the Las Vegas thing down. So maybe not too much of a surprise. Not that they're correlated tracks, but not many tracks on the West Coast. So I think maybe there's maybe something to that. Anyway, out of this group, I would go Josh Berry 1 and probably Chastain 2.
Yeah, I don't think I disagree. I think I would hold Chase Elliott more for my fantasy roster because he's more of a solid top 10 kind of guy. Not since he won his championship has he been really good. And that was not the Next Gen car. That was back in 2020, as you said. Josh Berry, 3 out of his 5 tries have been top 10 finishes. So it doesn't matter what team he's with, and seems to have even gotten better with Wood Brothers and their connection with Penske. We just talked about Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano both being good here as well. So no reason Josh Berry can't live up to that as well. But then, like you said, Chris Buescher, since the introduction of the next generation car he's been on, you can see a clear delineation of his results at Phoenix from when that car was introduced. And since then, it's been almost all top 10s. Last fall, he ended up finishing 12th, but like you said, just not getting out there and leading laps. But he tends to not qualify well. His average start through 20 starts is 22.3 versus his average finish of 18.2. And that 18.2 has been coming down a lot in recent years. So I think top for me out of this bunch would be Berry. Second would be Buescher. And then if you need a solid top 10 kind of guy on your fantasy roster, Chase Elliott might be your guy.
Okay. Next, out of this group, I mean, there's some a little bit of intrigue. Not the only thing with Keselowski is, he had a runner-up in November. It kind of came from nowhere to finish second. Also, it looked like he was probably going to win that race for a second. Keeping in mind that he's only led 7 laps in 8 next-gen races, and he's never won, ever, in 33 races at Phoenix. So while I think the team itself, we're going to get to Priest in a minute, has some dangerous drivers you might want to consider, I think there are other options, including Kyle Busch. Busch had a good run last year, finishing 8th and 5th. So, that's not bad considering both of his starting positions were outside the top 10. And he has a great history at Phoenix, especially pre-Next Gen. But even Next Gen, he's had some good results. It just hasn't led any laps since Next Gen. Hocevar, another racetrack where I'm interested because of his average starting position. He's starting 11.2. He just hasn't finished well. Maybe that comes with experience. So we'll see. But just keep that in mind. If he winds up starting in the top 5 and his odds drop, you were warned if you were thinking of taking him. So if you are thinking of taking him, you might want to do that now. Connor Zilic has never driven a Cup Series race before. Now the odds are more like the way they should be. And in the O'Reilly series, he had 2 top 5s out of 3 races. So what about this group?
Kyle Busch would be the one I would go with in this group. 8th and 5th in the 2 races last year. We're in hit or miss territory. So Brad Keselowski, obviously runner-up last fall, but he's only got one other top finish in the last 4 or 5 here as well. That was a 4th place back in the spring of 2024. So again, kind of hit or miss. I'm still on the fence with Connor Zilic. I want to get more experience for him. I think people's expectations of him are very high, but I think these odds are right about where they should be given his success at this track in O'Reilly, but we'll see how he does in the Cup Series. Carson Hocevar would be interesting, but the reason I would stay away from Carson Hocevar for the near-term future is kind of what we saw at Coda. He's not exactly making friends with his aggressive driving, and it may pay off with experience as years go by. We've seen a lot of the greats come up that way, and he is definitely paving and blazing a trail for himself. But that doesn't come without ticking some people off, and he got turned around last week, and he's not going to have many friends out at Phoenix again this week coming up. So I think he's got the speed at this track. Clearly, you can see that in his qualifying, but it's about getting to the finish, and that comes with experience and establishing yourself. Who knows? Maybe he'll do it. I hope this year he does win a race, and I think he can. But he's going to have to outrun everybody else in order to do it because he's got a lot of guys gunning for his bumper.
Okay. And then we get to some of the long shots. And out of these long shots, the ones that stick out to me would be Ty Gibbs. Matter of fact, I think that's probably it. That's why we said not haves and have nots here.
Yep.
So yeah, what stuck out to me with Ty Gibbs is the fact that if I recall, if it was this race, it was this race last year. He started 34th, was able to get all the way into the top 10, and then he had brake issues. And that's the reason he had a typical bad result, because he's got a 28.6 average here in his last three. But before that, in this race in 2024, he finished third and led 57 laps. So if you look at it, the last two spring races, when it matters and not Ty Gibbs racing out the season, he's actually done okay. So I think at 65-1, he would be the one that I would look at. What about you with the long shots?
Yeah, Gibbs was the first name that popped to my mind with the long shots, just because very much the same thing you said. I think he's got a lot of potential. We saw it with a front row start and a third place finish at the track in the spring race of 24. He's just got to get some luck on his side, not have some problems, and probably be right up at the front again. I think somebody else to consider, though, in the long shot category would be Bubba Wallace. And the reason why is because at the end of last year, he really turned it on and started scoring some regular top 10 finishes. I think we're seeing that, go right into 2026 here as well. He's got a 10th and 8th and an 11th in his first three races. And yes, super speedways are all about Bubba Wallace, and you should be finishing in the top 10 and maybe even top 5 and winning those. But road courses are not. And he started 24th last week at Circuit of the Americas and drove it all the way up to 11th. I think that bodes well for his some more normal tracks as we get to them this season. So Bubba Wallace is somebody that I would keep my eye on this weekend as well.
All right. Yeah. See, it's not all Tyler Reddick for that team. So a lot going on there. All right. It's time for our picks. So hopefully we can hit one for the second straight week. Reddick was a top pick last week. So I go this week.
You are first this week. Yep.
All right. Let's see. I'll go with my boy Blaney.
Then I guess I have to go with Hamlin.
Okay.
Actually, no. You know what? Oh. Let me go with Larson. I'll switch Hamlin to Larson.
Larson. Wow. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to take another favorite. So next up, that'll be easy. I'm going to go with Logano.
All right. I'll go with one of the B guys, and it's got to be a Toyota. It's what were Bell's odds again?
Oh, Bell was 6-1.
Yeah, no. All right, Briscoe then.
Oh, gonna go with Briscoe. Okay, another Toyota, and I will go with, let's see, between Berry and Gibbs. So I'll go with Berry.
I'll go with Wallace.
Okay. A little Bubba Wallace love. Don't see that around these parts very often.
Nope.
But hey, we'll see if, like you said, is off to a nice start. So,
yep.
Yeah, with the standings, like you said, so far so good. I mean, I'm sure this is the best start Bubba's ever gotten off to.
Oh, for sure. And just the momentum that he had at the end of last year, to see it carrying through here. His teammates clearly outshining him, but I think they've figured out something in Wallace's pits. So hopefully they just keep it rolling.
Okay, so there you go. That's our preview of the Straight Talk Wireless 500 from Phoenix. We'll hope that the added horsepower will help make this race a little bit more exciting than in seasons past. Don't forget to check with us on Saturday. That's when I'll come on. Usually not too long after qualifying, so hopefully that'll be the case. I'm not sure when qualifying is, but who knows? Maybe I'll if I wait like I did on Saturday. Maybe I'll just try that again to see if we can get the odds. So check it out, though, on Saturday. Make sure to subscribe so you know when the show will be available, when we post it live. And also check out, because that'll be the day that I will not only post the video, and we have been doing that show live the last few weeks. Not sure if we're going to continue with that, but you could also check out CJ's link. We have that right here on this video. You can go to the description part of the video on the bottom, and you can click and find out how to hook up with CJ and his DFS reports at rotowire.com. But specifically for this race, we'll have that for you on Saturday when I do the qualifying report. But if they don't want to wait till Saturday, they can hook up on Friday at rotowire.com by using the link in the description of this video. Is that correct?
That is correct. And we'll have out the preview for Phoenix sometime on Friday with fantasy lineup, as well as some good wagers if there are any out there. Hopefully there will be a couple like we talked about today.
All right. Any other questions? Let us know, and we will definitely get back to you. Now what we're going to do in the final couple of minutes here is talk about Formula One, because it has made its return. It's about to make a turn to begin the 2026 season. So what do we need to know about F1 and whether or not we're going to see what we saw last year?
I hope we get some good competition this year. Last year was certainly better than the year before, when it was pretty much every single week we're telling you to go ahead and pick Max Verstappen. But this year we have a whole new rules package. So the years of McLaren and or Red Bull just completely dominating an entire year may be out the window. The distribution between, I guess the biggest change in the rules is the distribution in power between the normal internal combustion or gas engine and the electric motor. They've increased the percentage of power coming from the electric motor. So it's now a 50-50 split. You've got 50% of your horsepower coming from the gas motor and 50% of your horsepower coming from the electric motor. And the drivers, in addition to DRS, and they're not calling it DRS this year anymore, but that little section on the track where they're allowed to move their wings. In addition to that, this year, they also have what is kind of like a push to pass type of button, where they can use that electric motor to get some boost of speed down the straightaways. So there was a lot of speculation as to what that would do to the racing, because in order to have the electric power, you have to back off and you have to brake, which might mean you have to go slower through the corners in order to have your battery last all the way through the next straight. But through testing, I think some of those fears were allayed. And the lap times aren't too different from what we saw the year before. They're a couple seconds off, but I think it's only like 2 seconds off. So I think as the year goes on, we'll see these cars speed up as the engineers figure out and drivers figure out how to work with them and set them up. But basically, it's a whole new blank slate, and we really don't know what's going to happen. We've got some educated guesses we can make, but you never really know until they hit the track this first weekend in Australia.
Okay, so have they done any timing or anything like that yet for this race?
They had 9 days of testing in Bahrain, and
9 days.
9 days.
Now, is that for the season or for this particular race?
That's it. That's for the season. They might have some
Okay.
testing, like a tire day here or there, but really Formula One testing is really clamped down. And quite honestly, the amount of, like, you can't necessarily bring both cars to those 9 days either. So it's pretty well controlled. We do have some speculation. We do see some things to point to who might be getting these new rules and who might be out of the gate fastest. It looks to be Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes. I would probably put at the top based on those testing times. Everybody's kind of hiding their times during those days. Again, you really don't know until cars start hitting the track here at Australia, because they'll be sandbagging, they'll be doing different setups, they'll be on different types of tires, all different agendas. So comparing lap times from the test is kind of a challenge.
Okay. So who should be favored in this race?
I think George Russell. And the reason I say that is because of the few things that you can take away from practice. It would be mistake-free or issue-free running. So what team and what car were able to get the most laps during those days, and then what teams obviously were toward the top of the timesheet. And if you look at those two categories consistently throughout those 9 days, Mercedes was at the top. George Russell's the senior driver at that team. Therefore, I think George Russell should be your favorite, and is your favorite, clearly, with the odds that you've got on the screen going into this weekend. I wouldn't discount his teammate, though. Kimi Antonelli came on pretty strong at the end of last year, getting some good results. So I wouldn't put it past him to have a surprise here as well. But the favorite clearly should be George Russell, given everything that we talked through thus far.
Well, how strange is it to see Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri as like the 6th, 7th choices?
Those might be your bargain choices, because, as I said, I don't think McLaren is far off. They didn't have major problems. They had some decent pace. They're definitely among the top 4. I think probably Mercedes and Ferrari might be a little bit ahead of them, but I think if you're looking for a bargain, Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri looking really good right there compared to the others.
And what about what's Max? How does he look?
Max, I would put in the same category as the McLaren. So clearly in the top 4, Red Bull looked very good. They had a lot of mistake-free running or issue-free running as well. Max is always fast in the car. That's why he's up there at the top. If there's anything left in the car to get out of it that no one else has found, Max is going to be the one that gets it. But I do think it's going to likely be between Mercedes and Ferrari. I think those two just have the edge. There's no way to know until, again, we actually get going this weekend at Australia. But I think those top 2, top 3 are probably, well, top 2 for sure, I would say, are definitely accurate. But then if you're looking for some bargains, I think your McLaren guys at 10-1 down there are looking pretty good.
Okay. And who's Max's teammate now?
Max's teammate is Isaac Hadjar. He came up from Racing Bulls, so Yuki Tsunoda is no longer with Red Bull senior team. Isaac Hadjar, you remember last year, was with Racing Bulls. He started having some pretty good results a little bit into the season, relatively early in the first half of the season, and then started getting some consistent point scoring finishes later on down the road. So he definitely earned his spot here at Red Bull. However, anybody that's a teammate of Max Verstappen's got big shoes to step into, so we'll see how he adjusts to life amongst the big boys.
All right. Well, should be interesting. This is definitely one of the races that you have the best chance,
for sure,
maybe, of making a little money in F1 with so much uncertainty. So we'll see how it goes. And is there anything else? Like, when is this race?
It's in Australia, so it's a Sunday afternoon in Australia, which I think is a Saturday night here in the United States.
Okay.
So be around 10, maybe 11 midnight on the East Coast is probably around when they'll kick off.
And are they going to have any more practices?
They're going to have practice on Friday, and then they'll have qualifying on Saturday. So you'll be able to get an initial impression of the times before the race. Qualifying obviously is very important. That's a huge determinant of where you finish in Formula One. So if you've got George Russell on the front row heading into Sunday's race, I think he's definitely going to be clear and clear and free of favoritism right there. Anybody else who's able to get up there and be pretty close in those first 2 rows will have a fighting chance at it. But you have a little bit of time to watch those times. Practice will tell you a lot, but qualifying will tell you even more.
Yeah, so kind of hard for me to think about taking George Russell at 2-1. That's all, or
go down much there. Yeah, so you have the luxury of waiting to see where he qualifies. If he does start on the front row, definitely take the 2-1 though.
Okay, all right. So when's the next race?
Next race will be a week after. I forget where they go. They go to China the week after. March. 2
more weeks.
Yep.
Okay, so no racing next week. That will wrap it up for our coverage here. Once again, we have both NASCAR and F1 whenever there's an F1. And hey, sometimes we'll do an F1 report maybe once when there's no NASCAR. Is that Easter Sunday? Something like that?
That's probably it.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a race on F1 on Easter weekend, but anyway.
Yeah, there probably is.
Yeah, they don't care. All right, so we're out of here. Thanks for tuning in once again to our NASCAR coverage and F1 here on Pro